I have friends in overalls whose friendship I would not swap for the favor of the kings of the world. Time is really the only capital that any human being has, and the thing that he can least afford to waste or lose. The man who doesn't make up his mind to cultivate the habit of thinking, misses the greatest pleasure in life. Someday, man will harness the rise and fall of the tides, imprison the power of the sun, and release atomic power. I never view mistakes as failures. They are simply opportunities to find out what doesn't work. If parents pass enthusiasm along to their children, they will leave them in a state of incalculable value. People are not remembered by how few times they fail, but by how often they succeed. Every wrong step is another step forward. The doctor of the future will give no medicine but will instruct his patient in the care of the human frame, in diet and in the cause and prevention of disease. They may even discover the germ of old age. The best thinking has been done in solitude. The worst has been done in turmoil. The chief function of the body is to carry the brain around. The three great essentials to achieve anything worthwhile are hard work, stick-to-itiveness, and common sense. Maturity is often more absurd than youth and very frequently is most unjust to youth. Everything comes to him who hustles while he waits. I never did a day's work in my life. It was all fun. We don't know a millionth of 1% about anything. What you are will show in what you do. Just because something doesn't do what you planned it to do doesn't mean it's useless. To invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk. Your worth consists in what you are and not in what you have. Not everything of value in life comes from books. Experience the world. The value of an idea lies in the using of it. Hard work, nothing to divert my thought, clear air and simple food made my life very pleasant. Vision without execution is hallucination. You can't realize your dreams unless you have one to begin with. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. If we did all the things we are capable of, we would literally astound ourselves. We shall have no better conditions in the future if we are satisfied with all those which we have at present. I've never made a mistake. I've only learned from experience. I don't live with the past, I am living for today and tomorrow. What a man's mind can create, man's character should control. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. What you are will show in what you do. Just because something doesn't do what you planned it to do doesn't mean it's useless. To invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk. Your worth consists in what you are and not in what you have. Not everything of value in life comes from books. Experience the world. I readily absorb ideas from every source, frequently starting where the last person left off. Inspiration can be found in a pile of junk. Sometimes, you can put it together with a good imagination and invent something. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man and I will show you a failure. Success is 90% perspiration and 10% inspiration. Just because something doesn't do what you planned it to do doesn't mean it's useless. To invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk. We shall have no better conditions in the future if we are satisfied with all those which we have at present. Be courageous. I have seen many depressions in business. Always America has emerged from these stronger and more prosperous. Be brave as your fathers before you. Have faith. Go forward. As a cure for worrying, work is better than whiskey. I always found that, if I began to worry, the best thing I could do was focus upon doing something useful and then work very hard at it. Soon, I would forget what was troubling me. Never get discouraged if you fail. Learn from it. Keep trying. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. The important thing is to not stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. I believe in one thing, that only a life lived for others is a life worth living. Where the world ceases to be the scene of our personal hopes and wishes, where we face it as free beings admiring, asking, observing, there we enter the realm of art and science. Although I am a typical loner in daily life, my consciousness of belonging to the invisible community of those who strive for truth, beauty, and justice has preserved me from feeling isolated. Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better. All religions, arts, and sciences are branches of the same tree. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. He who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead, his eyes are closed. A happy man is too satisfied with the present to dwell too much on the future. Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is the garbage man or the president of the university. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. I am enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. Few are those who see with their own eyes and feel with their own hearts. I believe in standardizing automobiles. I do not believe in standardizing human beings. A man should look for what is, and not for what he thinks should be. I am by heritage a Jew, by citizenship a Swiss, and by makeup a human being, and only a human being, without any special attachment to any state or national entity whatsoever. Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. I believe in intuitions and inspirations. I sometimes feel that I am right. I do not know that I am. My passion for social justice has often brought me into conflict with people, as has my aversion to any obligation and dependence I did not regard as absolutely necessary. A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. Try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. The greatest scientists are artists as well. Science can flourish only in an atmosphere of free speech. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. The important thing is to not stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. I believe in one thing, that only a life lived for others is a life worth living. Where the world ceases to be the scene of our personal hopes and wishes, where we face it as free beings admiring, asking, observing, there we enter the realm of art and science. Although I am a typical loner in daily life, my consciousness of belonging to the invisible community of those who strive for truth, beauty, and justice has preserved me from feeling isolated. Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better. I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. If I were not a physicist, I would probably be a musician. I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. I cannot tell if I would have done any creative work of importance in music, but I do know that I get. My passion for social justice has often brought me into conflict with people, as has my aversion to any obligation and dependence I did not regard as absolutely necessary. One thing I have learned in a long life, that all our science, measured against reality, is primitive and childlike, and yet it is the most precious thing we have. Reality leaves a lot to the imagination. Count your age by friends, not years. Count your life by smiles, not tears. All we are saying is give peace a chance. A dream you dream alone is only a dream. A dream you dream together is reality. As usual, there is a great woman behind every idiot. The more I see, the less I know for sure. Love is the flower you've got to let grow. Life is what happens while you are busy making other plans. Time you enjoy wasting, was not wasted. Part of me suspects that I'm a loser, and the other part of me thinks I'm God Almighty. If everyone demanded peace instead of another television set, then there'd be peace. Love is the answer, and you know that for sure. Love is a flower, you've got to let it grow. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. You don't need anybody to tell you who you are or what you are. You are what you are. If being an egomaniac means I believe in what I do and in my art or music, then in that respect you can call me that. I believe in what I do, and I'll say it. My role in society, or any artist's or poet's role, is to try and express what we all feel. It matters not who you love, where you love, why you love, when you love or how you love, it matters only that you love. We live in a world where we have to hide to make love, while violence is practiced in broad daylight. When you do something noble and beautiful and nobody noticed, do not be sad. For the sun every morning is a beautiful spectacle and yet most of the audience still sleeps. There are two basic motivating forces, fear and love. When we are afraid, we pull back from life. The thing the 60s did was to show us the possibilities and the responsibility that we all had. It wasn't the answer. It just gave us a glimpse of the possibility. It doesn't matter how long my hair is or what color my skin is or whether I'm a woman or a man. We live in a world where we have to hide to make love, while violence is practiced in broad daylight. If everyone demanded peace instead of another television set, then there'd be peace. Guilt for being rich, and guilt thinking that perhaps love and peace isn't enough and you have to go and get shot or something. We've got this gift of love, but love is like a precious plant. You can't just accept it and leave it in the cupboard or just think it's going to get on by itself. You've got to keep watering it. You've got to really look after it and nurture it. All we are saying is give peace a chance. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Declare it. Just the same way we declare war. That is how we will have peace. We just need to declare it. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. If someone thinks that love and peace is a cliché that must have been left behind in the 60s, that's his problem. Love and peace are eternal. I'm not claiming divinity. I've never claimed purity of soul. I've never claimed to have the answers to life. I only put out songs and answer questions as honestly as I can. But I still believe in peace, love and understanding. Imagine all the people living life in peace. We all have Hitler in us, but we also have love and peace. So why not give peace a chance for once? I hope someday you will join us and the world will live as one. Violence begets violence, you know. And you can't kill off all the violent people or all the murderers. We'd have to kill off the government. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Free all the prisoners everywhere, all they want is truth and justice, all they need is love and care. And so this is Christmas for black and for white, For yellow and red, let's stop all the fight. I believe that as soon as people want peace in the world they can have it. The trouble is they are not aware they can get it. Peace and love are eternal. Why don't people believe us when we say we're simply in love? Life is what happens while you are busy making other plans. Our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, and I think I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. That's what's insane about it. Time you enjoy wasting was not wasted. As usual, there is a great woman behind every idiot. Music is everybody's possession. It's only publishers who think that people own it. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Will the people in the cheaper seats clap your hands? And the rest of you, if you'll just rattle your jewelry? Part of me suspects that I'm a loser, and the other part of me thinks I'm God Almighty. You don't need anybody to tell you who you are or what you are. You are what you are. Everybody loves you when you're 6 foot in the ground. If you tried to give rock and roll another name, you might call it Chuck Berry. When you're drowning, you don't say I would be incredibly pleased if someone would have the foresight to notice me drowning and come and help me, you just scream. If everyone demanded peace instead of another television set, then there'd be peace. If someone thinks that love and peace is a cliché that must have been left behind in the 60s, that's his problem. Love and peace are eternal. If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Peace cannot be kept by force, it can only be achieved by understanding. People sleep peaceably in their beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. I prefer peace. But if trouble must come, let it come in my time, so that my children can live in peace. Peace is not absence of conflict, it is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Never be in a hurry. Do everything quietly and in a calm spirit. Do not lose your inner peace for anything whatsoever, even if your whole world seems upset. You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Pursue some path, however narrow and crooked, in which you can walk with love and reverence. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. We can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. God cannot give us happiness and peace apart from Himself, because it is not there. There is no such thing. Our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, and I think I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. That's what's insane about it. One thing I can tell you is you have to be free. Come together, right now, over me. You know the way people begin to look like their dogs? Well, we're beginning to look like each other. The thing the 60s did was to show us the possibilities and the responsibility that we all had. It wasn't the answer. It just gave us a glimpse of the possibility. When I cannot sing my heart, I can only speak my mind. Nobody controls me. I'm uncontrollable. The only one who controls me is me, and that's just barely possible. Everything is as important as everything else. We all have Hitler in us, but we also have love and peace. So why not give peace a chance for once? It doesn't matter how long my hair is or what color my skin is or whether I'm a woman or a man. You're just left with yourself all the time, whatever you do anyway. You've got to get down to your own God in your own temple. It's all down to you, mate. If being an egomaniac means I believe in what I do and in my art or music, then in that respect you can call me that. I believe in what I do, and I'll say it. I put things down on sheets of paper and stuff them in my pockets. When I have enough, I have a book. I am a violent man who has learned not to be violent and regrets his violence. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. Quiet people have the loudest minds. The universe doesn't allow perfection. Nothing is better than reading and gaining more and more knowledge. However difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. 1. Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. 2. Never give up work. Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it. 3. If you are lucky enough to find love, remember it is there and don't throw it away. I have noticed that even those who assert that everything is predestined and that we can change nothing about it still look both ways before they cross the street. While there is life, there is hope. If time travel is possible, where are the tourists from the future? My goal is simple. It is a complete understanding of the universe, why it is as it is and why it exists at all. We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we can understand the universe. That makes us something very special. Look up at the stars, not down at your feet. People who boast about their IQ are losers. I don't fear God, I fear His believers. When the going gets tough, the tough take a coffee break. We only have to look at ourselves to see how intelligent life might develop into something we wouldn't want to meet. I don't think the human race will survive the next 1,000 years, unless we spread into space. There should be no boundaries to human endeavor. However bad life may seem, there is always hope. To confine our attention to terrestrial matters would be to limit the human spirit. I am just a child who has never grown up. I still keep asking these how and why questions. Occasionally, I find an answer. It's a crazy world out there. Be curious. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Real science can be far stranger than science fiction and much more satisfying. The more you learn, the more you know. The more you know, the more you forget. The more you forget, the less you know. So why bother to learn? Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it. So next time someone complains that you have made a mistake, tell them that may be a good thing. Because without imperfection, neither you nor I would exist. The past, like the future, is indefinite and exists only as a spectrum of possibilities. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm in no hurry to die. I have so much I want to do first. To understand recursion, one must first understand recursion. It surprises me how disinterested we are today about things like physics, space, the universe, and philosophy of our existence, our purpose, our final destination. It's a crazy world out there. Be curious. In my mind, I am free. I have so much that I want to do. I hate wasting time. You cannot predict the future. Success is a relative term. It brings so many relatives. The thing about smart people is that they seem like crazy people to dumb people. I'm not religious in the normal sense. I believe the universe is governed by the laws of science. The laws may have been decreed by God, but God does not intervene to break the laws. We are all now connected by the internet, like neurons in a giant brain. Life would be tragic if it weren't funny. It's the gravity that shapes the large-scale structure of the universe, even though it is the weakest of 4 categories of forces. If you are lucky enough to find love, remember it is there and don't throw it away. No one undertakes research in physics with the intention of winning a prize. It is the joy of discovering something no one knew before. Whether you want to uncover the secrets of the universe, or you just want to pursue a career in the 21st century, basic computer programming is an essential skill to learn. The lesson of the book is that the universe is governed by the laws of science. I want to know why the universe exists, why there is something greater than nothing. For millions of years, mankind lived just like the animals. Then something happened which unleashed the power of our imagination. We learned to talk and we learned to listen. Perhaps we could write code to optimize code, then run that code through the code optimizer? Why do we remember the past, but not the future? There is no unique picture of reality. God does not play dice. Consideration of black holes suggests, not only that God does play dice, but that he sometimes confuses us by throwing them where they can't be seen. Only time, whatever that may be, will tell. The idea that we are alone in the universe seems to me completely implausible and arrogant. Considering the number of planets and stars that we know exist, it's extremely unlikely that we are the only form of evolved life. Although I cannot move and I have to speak through a computer, in my mind I am free. The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. I'm really easy to get along with once you see it my way. Hang in there, retirement is only 30 years away. Science can explain the universe without the need for a creator. We should seek the greatest value of our action. The victim should have the right to end his life, if he wants. But I think it would be a great mistake. However bad life may seem, there is always something you can do, and succeed at. While there's life, there is hope. What is important is that we have the ability to create. There is no heaven or afterlife for broken down computers. That is a fairy story for people afraid of the dark. You cannot understand the glories of the universe without believing there is some supreme power behind it. One cannot really argue with a mathematical theorem. 30 years ago I was diagnosed with motor neuron disease, and given 2.5 years to live. I have always wondered how they could be so precise about the half. One can't prove that God doesn't exist, but science makes God unnecessary. The laws of physics can explain the universe without the need for a creator. We each exist for but a short time, and in that time explore but a small part of the whole universe. We are in danger of destroying ourselves by our greed and stupidity. We cannot remain looking inwards at ourselves on a small and increasingly polluted and overcrowded planet. If I have questions about the universe on my mind when I go to bed, I can't turn off. I dream equations all night. The universe in a nutshell. Mankind's greatest achievements have come about by talking and its greatest failures by not talking. It doesn't have to be like this. The idea of 10 dimensions might sound exciting, but they would cause real problems if you forget where you parked your car. When something is made idiot-proof, they will just make better idiots. I believe everyone should have a broad picture of how the universe operates and our place in it. It is a basic human desire. And it also puts our worries in perspective. I would like nuclear fusion to become a practical power source. It would provide an inexhaustible supply of energy, without pollution or global warming. I don't think the human race will survive the next 1,000 years, unless we spread into space. There are too many accidents that can befall life on a single planet. But I'm an optimist. We will reach out to the stars. Observations indicate that the universe is expanding at an ever-increasing rate. It will expand forever, getting emptier and darker. Time and space are finite in extent, but they don't have any boundary or edge. They would be like the surface of the Earth, but with 2 more dimensions. If I had to choose a superhero to be, I would pick Superman. He's everything that I'm not. A zero-gravity flight is a first step toward space travel. Love the neighbor. but don't get caught. What I meant by we would know the mind of God is, we would know everything that God would know, if there were a God. Which there isn't. I'm an atheist. Philosophers have not kept up with modern developments in science, particularly physics. There is a real danger that computers will develop intelligence and take over. We think we have solved the mystery of creation. Maybe we should patent the universe and charge everyone royalties for their existence. Sometimes I wonder if I'm as famous for my wheelchair and disabilities as I am for my discoveries. Thank you for watching.
You have to be able to accept whatever comes, and the most important thing is that you have to give your best in whatever it is. A woman is like a tea bag, you never know how strong it is until it's in hot water. Do one thing every day that scares you. Do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyway. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. The purpose of life is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and without fear for newer and richer experience. Many people will walk in and out of your life, but only true friends will leave footprints in your heart. No matter how plain a woman may be, if truth and honesty are written across her face, she will be beautiful. We are afraid to care too much, for fear that the other person does not care at all. To handle yourself, use your head. To handle others, use your heart. You can often change your circumstances by changing your attitude. Beautiful young people are accidents of nature, but beautiful old people are works of art. If someone betrays you once, it's their fault. If they betray you twice, it's your fault. The reason that fiction is more interesting than any other form of literature, to those who really like to study people, is that in fiction the author can really tell the truth without humiliating himself. With the new day comes new strength and new thoughts. Do not stop thinking of life as an adventure. You have no security unless you can live bravely, excitingly, imaginatively, unless you can choose a challenge instead of competence. Happiness is not a goal, it's a byproduct of a life well lived. Life is what you make it. Always has been, always will be. Life was meant to be lived, and curiosity must be kept alive. One must never, for whatever reason, turn his back on life. It is not fair to ask of others what you are not willing to do yourself.
You have to accept whatever comes, and the only important thing is that you meet it with the best you have to give.
What could we accomplish if we knew we could not fail? In the long run, we shape our lives, and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die. And the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. Once I had a rose named after me and I was very flattered. But I was not pleased to read the description in the catalog, no good in a bed, but fine up against a wall. Friendship with oneself is all important, because without it one cannot be friends with anyone else in the world.
Never allow a person to tell you no who doesn't have the power to say yes. Never mistake knowledge for wisdom. One helps you make a living, the other helps you make a life. When will our consciences grow so tender that we will act to prevent human misery rather than avenge it? I think, at a child's birth, if a mother could ask a fairy godmother to endow it with the most useful gift, that gift would be curiosity. One thing life has taught me, if you are interested, You never have to look for new interests. They come to you. When you are genuinely interested in one thing, it will always lead to something else. Work is always an antidote to depression. Remember always that you have not only the right to be an individual, you have an obligation to be one. You cannot make any useful contribution in life unless you do this. I believe that anyone can conquer fear by doing the things he fears to do. People grow through experience if they meet life honestly and courageously. This is how character is built.
Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. After climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I never lose. I either win or learn. Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity, it is an act of justice. We owe our children, the most vulnerable citizens in any society, a life free from violence and fear. I like friends who have independent minds because they tend to make you see problems from all angles. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. A good head and good heart are always a formidable combination. But when you add to that a literate tongue or pen, then you have something very special. You will achieve more in this world through acts of mercy than you will through acts of retribution. Nothing is black or white. When the water starts boiling, it is foolish to turn off the heat. Fools multiply when wise men are silent. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. Money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. There is no such thing as part freedom. It always seems impossible until it's done. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. Do not judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. A winner is a dreamer who never gives up. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's inspiring others to move beyond it. Live life as though nobody is watching, and express yourself as though everyone is listening. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. We must use time creatively, and forever realize that the time is always ripe to do right. No single person can liberate a country. You can only liberate a country if you act as a collective. Everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and passionate about what they do. Let your courage rise with danger. Difficulties break some men but make others. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. There is nothing like returning to a place that remains unchanged to find the ways in which you yourself have altered. Appearances matter, and remember to smile. Freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. It is not where you start but how high you aim that matters for success. The brave man is not the one who has no fears, he is the one who triumphs over his fears. A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. Success in politics demands that you must take your people into confidence about your views and state them very clearly, very politely, very calmly, but nevertheless, state them openly. Courageous people do not fear forgiving, for the sake of peace. As a leader, one must sometimes take actions that are unpopular, or whose results will not be known for years to come. It was a useful reminder that all men, even the most seemingly cold-blooded, have a core of decency and that if their heart is touched, they are capable of changing. If I had my time over I would do the same again. So would any man who dares call himself a man. It is in your hands, to make a better world for all who live in it. I am not a saint unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying. In my country, we go to prison first and then become president. I am not an optimist, but a great believer of hope. I am the master of my fate and the captain of my destiny. Peace is the greatest weapon for development that any person can have. I could not imagine that the future I was walking toward could compare in any way to the past that I was leaving behind. Only free men can negotiate, prisoners can't enter into contracts. We forgive but not forget. I realized that they could take everything from me except my mind and my heart. They could not take those things. Those things I still had control over. And I decided not to give them away. I hate race discrimination most intensely and in all its manifestations. I have fought it all during my life, I fight it now and will do so until the end of my days. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones. Those who conduct themselves with morality, integrity, and consistency need not fear the forces of inhumanity and cruelty. Real leaders must be ready to sacrifice all for the freedom of their people. Losing a sense of time is an easy way to lose one's grip and even one's sanity. There are times when a leader must move out ahead of the flock, go off in a new direction, confident that he is leading his people the right way. Lead from the back, and let others believe they are in front. As I have said, the first thing is, to be honest with yourself. You can never have an impact on society if you have not changed yourself. Great peacemakers are all people of integrity, of honesty, but humility. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. Where you stand depends on where you sit. One of the things I learned when I was negotiating was that until I changed myself, I could not change others. One cannot be prepared for something while secretly believing it will not happen. We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. Know your enemy, and learn about his favorite sport. There is no easy walk to freedom anywhere, and many of us will have to pass through the valley of the shadow of death again and again before we reach the mountaintop of our desires. I dream of an Africa which is in peace with itself. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. It is music and dancing that make me at peace with the world. I learned that to humiliate another person is to make him suffer an unnecessarily cruel fate. Even as a boy, I defeated my opponents without dishonoring them. Your victory has demonstrated that no person anywhere in the world should not dare to dream of wanting to change the world for a better place. For a revolution is not just a question of pulling a trigger, its purpose is to create a fair, just society. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. Let's go invent tomorrow rather than worrying about what happened yesterday. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. I'm actually as proud of many of the things we haven't done as the things we have done. I don't care about being right. I care about success and doing the right thing. You have to believe that the dots will somehow connect in your future. The products suck. There's no sex in them anymore. For you to sleep well at night, the aesthetic, the quality, has to be carried all the way through. Details matter, it's worth waiting to get it right. Get closer than ever to your customers. So close that you tell them what they need well before they realize it themselves. The doers are the major thinkers. The people that really create the things that change this industry are both the thinker and doer in one person. I do not adopt softness towards others because I want to make them better. If you don't love it, you're going to fail. You can build your own things that other people can use. And once you learn that, you'll never be the same again. In the broadest context, the goal is to seek enlightenment, however you define it. Ultimately, it comes down to taste. It comes down to trying to expose yourself to the best things that humans have done and then try to bring those things into what you're doing. The most precious thing that we all have with us is time. Don't get hung up on who owns the idea. Pick the best one, and let's go. We do no market research. We don't hire consultants. We just want to make great products. The people that have really made the contributions have been the thinkers and the doers. I think all of us need to be on guard against arrogance, which knocks at the door whenever you're successful. The Lisa people wanted to do something great. And the Mac people want to do something insanely great. The difference shows. Once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life, was made up by people that were no smarter than you. I always advise people, don't wait. Do something when you are young, when you have nothing to lose, and keep that in mind. That's been one of my mantras, focus and simplicity. We had everything to gain. And we figured even if we crash and burn, and lose everything, the experience will have been worth 10 times the cost. We are very careful about what features we add because we can't take them away. The really great person will keep on going and find the key, underlying principle of the problem, and come up with a beautiful, elegant solution that works. On the blue box, that was what we learned, was that us, too, we didn't know much. We could build a little thing that could control a giant thing, and that was an incredible lesson. Believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart. There is a tremendous amount of craftsmanship between a great idea and a great product. One way to remember who you are is to remember who your heroes are. People who know what they're talking about don't need PowerPoint. We were really working 14 to 18-hour days, 7 days a week. For like, 2 years, 3 years. That was our life. But we loved it, we were young, and we could do it. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. People judge you on your performance, so focus on the outcome. Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. Now, as you graduate to begin anew, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. It's more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy. Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. Going to bed at night saying we've done something wonderful. That's what matters to me. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. If today were the last of your life, would you do what you were going to do today? I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. Almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. And you can change it, you can influence it. The minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. If you want it, you can fly, you just have to trust you a lot. The only thing you have in your life is time. If you invest that time in yourself to have great experiences that are going to enrich you, then you can't possibly lose. There was a constant flow of intellectual questioning about the truth of life. That was a time when every college student in this country read Be Here Now and Diet for a Small Planet. There were about 10 books. On being fired from Apple and called back 12 years later, what a circle of life. You know? Life is just always mysterious and surprising, and you never know what's around the next corner. We don't get a chance to do that many things, and everyone should be really excellent. Because this is our life. Life is brief, and then you die, you know. In business, if I knew earlier what I know now, I'd have probably done some things a lot better than I did, but I also would have probably done some other things a lot worse. But so what? It's more important to be engaged in the present. I think the things you most regret in life are things you didn't do. What you really regret was never asking that girl to dance. I think death is the most wonderful invention of life. It purges the system of these old models that are obsolete. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. Without death, there would be very little progress. So it's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of worrying constantly, and if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you've got to love it and you've got to have passion, and I think that's the high order bit. I've been rejected, but I was still in love. I was lucky, I found what I loved to do early in life. And I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. You get your wind back, remember the finish line, and keep going. On the Macintosh, it was as though we knew that once it was out of our hands, it wouldn't be ours anymore. My wife deserves all the credit for keeping me at it. Most people don't get those experiences because they never ask. I've never found anybody that didn't want to help me if I asked them for help. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. If you act like you can do something, then it will work. Life goes on and you learn from it. Each year has been so robust with problems and successes and learning experiences and human experiences that a year is a lifetime at Apple. I've never found anyone who said no or hung up the phone when I called. I just asked. And when people ask me, I try to be as responsive, to pay that debt of gratitude back. You gotta act. And you've gotta be willing to fail, you gotta be ready to crash and burn, with people on the phone, with starting a company, with whatever. If you're afraid of failing, you won't get very far. I believe life is an intelligent thing, that things aren't random. I think different religions are different doors to the same house. Sometimes I think the house exists, and sometimes I don't. It's the great mystery. If you are willing to work hard and ask lots of questions, you can learn business pretty fast. Character is like a tree and reputation like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it, the tree is the real thing. Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side, my greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right. You can fool all the people some of the time, and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. Most folks are about as happy as they make their minds up to be. No man has a good enough memory to be a successful liar. Human action can be modified to some extent, but human nature cannot be changed. Love is the chain to lock a child to its parent. There are no bad pictures, that's just how your face looks sometimes. You can tell the greatness of a man by what makes him angry. Common-looking people are the best in the world, that is the reason the Lord makes so many of them. He has a right to criticize, who has a heart to help. Tact, the ability to describe others as they see themselves. A farce or comedy is best played, a tragedy is best read at home. Upon this subject of education, not presuming to dictate any plan or system respecting it, I can only say that I view it as the most important subject which we as a people can be engaged in. For people who like that kind of a book, that is the kind of book they will like. I am rather inclined to silence, and whether that be wise or not, it is at least more unusual nowadays to find a man who can hold his tongue than to find one who cannot. You can fool some of the people all of the time, and all of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. When you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. Leave nothing for tomorrow which can be done today. Adhere to your purpose and you will soon feel as well as you ever did. On the contrary, if you falter, and give up, you will lose the power of keeping any resolution, and will regret it all your life. And in the end it is not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice because thorn bushes have roses. Every man's happiness is his own responsibility. If I am killed, I can die but once, but to live in constant dread of it, is to die over and over again. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. I would rather be a little nobody, than to be an evil somebody. I have been driven many times upon my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I had nowhere else to go. My own wisdom and that of all about me seemed insufficient for that day. Always bear in mind that your own resolution to success is more important than any other thing. I'm a success today because I had a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let him down. I have a congenital aversion to failure. I happen temporarily to occupy this big White House. I am living witness that any one of your children may look to come here as my father's child has. The greatest fine art of the future will be the making of a comfortable living from a small piece of land. I am not bound to win, but I am bound to be true. I am not bound to succeed, but I am bound to live by the light that I have. I must stand with anybody that stands right, and stand with him while he is right, and part with him when he goes wrong. And having thus chosen our course, without guile, and with pure purpose, let us renew our trust in God, and go forward without fear, and with manly hearts. Human nature will not change. In any future great national trial, compared with the men of this, we shall have as weak and as strong, as silly and as wise, as bad and as good. What is to be, will be, and no prayers of ours can arrest the decree. Let every American, every lover of liberty, every well-wisher to his posterity, swear by the blood of the Revolution, never to violate in the least particular, the laws of the country, and never to tolerate their violation by others. I claim not to have controlled events, but confess plainly that events have controlled me. I know not how to aid you, save in the assurance of one of mature age, and much severe experience, that you cannot fail, if you resolutely determine, that you will not. I have stepped out upon this platform that I may see you and that you may see me, and in the arrangement I have the best of the bargain. The demon of intemperance ever seems to have delighted in sucking the blood of genius and of generosity. This is a world of compensations, and he who would be no slave, must consent to have no slave. Those who deny freedom to others, deserve it not for themselves, and, under a just God, cannot long retain it. As I would not be a slave, so I would not be a master. This expresses my idea of democracy. In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free, honorable alike in what we give, and what we preserve. We shall nobly save, or meanly lose, the last best hope of earth. You think slavery is right and should be extended, while we think slavery is wrong and ought to be restricted. That, I suppose, is the rub. It certainly is the only substantial difference between us. The one victory we can ever call complete will be that one which proclaims that there is not one slave or one drunkard on the face of God's green earth. All I ask for the Negro is that if you do not like him, let him alone. If God gave him but little, that little let him enjoy. I leave you, hoping that the lamp of liberty will burn in your bosoms until there shall no longer be a doubt that all men are created free and equal. No man is good enough to govern another man, without that other's consent. I say this is the leading principle, the sheet anchor of American republicanism. Labor is prior to, and independent of, capital. Capital is only the fruit of labor, and could never have existed if labor had not first existed. Labor is the superior of capital, and deserves much the higher consideration.